Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Conversations with Coaches podcast. I am your host, Kevin, properly caffeinated and ready to go. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Steve Ferman. Steve helps CEOs and executives reach their goals and dreams by using his proven methodology called scaling up, by working on the four critical components that all businesses must focus on: people, strategy, execution, and cash. Cannot forget cash. You make scaling your business fun and exciting. Steve, thanks for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Let's start at the start, begin at the beginning. How did you realize you were or set about becoming a professional coach? So what was your journey towards that realization, and how did you turn that into running your own coaching business?
I didn't realize it until recently, but I think it goes back to raising my kids and coaching them in sports and realizing the joy that I got out of helping a child be really good in soccer. And I wasn't really a soccer player as a kid. I learned later years. But I think the beginning of it really started way back when. My daughters are 24 and 27 now, but way back when they were little kids. And I just really enjoyed, helping people. My Simon Sinek why, the reason why I get up every day is that I love to help people, and that really turns me on. So I think it started way back when, but I found that I've been in technology for over 40 years. I've built, bought, and sold 6 different companies over those years. And, if I look back on a lot of what I did, a lot of it was, helping clients make the right decisions, talking about strategy, business continuity, disaster recovery, learn about cash and their obsolescence of equipment and planning for it instead of getting a capital expense, but being prepared. And that kind of morphed into me going to the Strategic Coach, which is a business entrepreneur coaching program. So I spent 13 years under, 7 of those under Dan Sullivan, the creator, and being coached. I think a good coach, like any great athlete, has a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, 8 years ago, and I got on the board and I started coaching young, or not young, but to be an EO, you got to do $1 million or more in gross revenues. And anyone that does 250,000 to $1 million, we have a program called Accelerators, so EOA, Entrepreneurs Organization Accelerators. And I started coaching them, and I graduated 3 out of 4 years of coaching in EOA. So that was, I think, the pinnacle of, yeah, this is really what you should be doing. This is where you belong.
Man, it sounds like you caught the bug early and just kept going after it. Like you've got it, which I don't have kids myself, but I can imagine that when you get that taste of what it's like to watch your guidance just blossom in your own children. That's like, and if you can have a version of that with other people where you're basically asking them the right questions at the right times, giving them the guidance and support they need to become who they want to become in the ways they want to become it. Honestly, when I pretty much every coach I talk to is, I don't want to say addicted to it, but once they got that feeling, once they caught that, they're just like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like, I love that you brought in Simon Sinek, your why. That's the why. It's just, there's really nothing like it. There's no greater service. I don't think there's no greater service you can provide to someone than that guidance and that, the right question at the right time, asked in the right way. It's just, it's a beautiful, just virtuous cycle, really.
Yeah, it's really hard to see the forest from within the trees, and coaches give a good outside perspective. And the joy, you're right, is watching their aha moment, like, oh, God, I love you. Why didn't I think about that? And it's funny. I'll share a little quick story. I had a session, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, with one of my clients, and I said, I really haven't had a chance to use any of these tools in my toolbox with you yet. I've been coaching you since January, and we've not taken out a vision summary, a function accountability chart. We've not done any of the things that I normally would do with a client. And I feel like I'm not serving you the way as well as I could be. And she goes, just stop right there. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, just your experience and your knowledge and your outside perspective has helped me so much. Sales are up, we're growing, everything's working perfectly. Why would you want to change that? And that was, for me, a really good feeling inside of, aha, That's what it's really all about. So yeah, I live for that. That's the adrenaline rush for me in that regard. Seeing them get that aha moment, like, and they be able to help themselves.
And that really is I love that story because it really does capture the I don't know, something about that dual nature of what great coaching is all about. Because great coaches, they have systems, they have processes, they have blueprints to guide you into building what you want to build, and it's specific and it's detailed. You can show it to someone, you help them understand it, and it will literally translate into their language and help them to become the person they want to become. And
Yep.
not or and you as that coach are such an example. Your presence, your experience, speaking when you speak, being silent when you're silent, waiting for someone to fill in those moments, is really just that your expertise, your experience, and you are almost a representation of everything that system is meant to be. And when you bring both of those to the table, when you have like that firm foundation that someone can understand, regardless of where they're starting, they can understand where they're going, at least they can see the map. But then they have you who's traveled that map, who knows every nook and cranny of that trail, every mountain, every valley, every river. There's nothing like it. It really is like you feel both challenged and safe, with a great coach. And I just, again, I'm just spouting
No, you're right.
positivity now
You're a
because
thousand percent correct.
yeah.
You are 1000% correct, Mundo. That's for sure.
So let's talk a little bit, at least, about. I mean, we've already talked quite a bit about who you coach and how you coach them these days. Obviously, you have tremendous experience in tech, but what it's today, let's try to limit it, because it seems like you do a little bit or a lot bit of all sorts of things. So, what would you identify as the heart and soul, the core of your coaching business these days?
Where scaling up really shines is in the mid market, and
Hmm.
mid market can be defined by 10 million, or it starts at 3 million. Everyone's got their own ideas of it. For me, it's really 3 million up to 50 million. It's 3+ on the executive team, and my niche is technology. But ironically, I only have one technology company right now that I'm coaching. The rest are all other industries. And it's really about the four decisions: people, strategy, execution, and cash. I don't care what business you're in. If you're growing, it's going to suck cash. If there's a downturn and it's summertime like August, it's going to suck cash because money's not coming to the door. It all kind of goes round and round. But where scaling up really shines is in the mid-market arena. It doesn't mean I don't do CEOs. I do, or just straight executive one-on-one coaching. I do. But the real power of the tools are really geared in and around the one-page strategic plan, which is basically a plan for the individual to have rocks or priorities and goals, and maybe a 13-week race to achieve those goals, as well as company priorities. And if you can disseminate, if management can learn how to disseminate what their plans are, what the vision of the CEO, what the core values, what their mission statement is, and disseminate that down to everybody in the company where they all know it. Keep it short and simple, no more than 3 core values. You don't need a whole page of 10 because no one's going to remember them. Your brand purpose, your brand promise, all of that. Let everybody know and transparently what's really going on, where we're heading. Then everybody wants to join you. When I was in the Marine Corps, to get 80 guys to march in sync, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, sounds kind of crazy. Everyone's just drill instructing, right? But the reality is, when we're all heading towards the same end goal, and we're all working towards that, we all know what it is. We're a lot stronger because we're one, we're unified. Same thing in a company. And mid-market companies, I think, benefit the most from that because they're typically the most dysfunctional, because everyone's trying to do the best they can. There's even something in scaling up called the 5 dysfunctions by Patrick Lencioni. And the 5 dysfunctions is really about people that have lack of trust, they have fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. And that's just quite common, I see, in mid-market companies, because everyone's trying to do their own thing. They get siloed and they don't realize, hey, wait a minute, we're all in this together. And so that's where we really shine.
And it really is. I mean, as you were speaking, I was thinking that really is the rub, isn't it? How do you have individual excellence in the context of collective action? And how do you, without compromising one or the other or both? And I love the way that you emphasize that transparency, clarity, simplicity. And that's obviously those all serve the same purpose, where it's just like, and it comes from the top down, but it also radiates outward as well. And it's just, I find it, and once again, I'm going to find myself waxing poetically about how much I love this process. It's like that, finding that, changing those ors. Like, can you have individual excellence or, team cohesion? It's not or. These are ands we're dealing with.
Yes.
A lot of people will get trapped into feeling like they can only have one or the other, and making these false choices that hurt themselves and their company and their team and everyone around them. And there really is almost, and again, I'm kind of waxing again, but this journey towards where it's like, no, this is possible across the board, individual excellence and team cohesion and action in a way that makes everyone better. And you know what? Here's how: we have a system, we have a process, but also here I'm in the room and I've got a couple questions for you based on what I've seen. Let's talk about those. And it just goes from there. I love it.
look at ant colonies or bee colonies. I mean, look at their nature is probably the best example of how to get a unified front, all doing their own individual things, which all are for the greater good of the whole. And that's where it really, makes a big difference. And you can make huge chunks, huge strides towards getting to where you're trying to get to.
Man, I keep wanting to, there's so many jumping off points. Obviously, this is probably a big part of your coaching, is it's so rich immediately right off the top. It was like, we could spend hours talking about this, days, weeks, months, but
Yep.
we've already reached our 15-minute time limit. And that's the, I like to make sure that if people want to binge this podcast, they can actually, listen to a couple episodes while they, do the laundry, fold the laundry, maybe do some dishes. So before I let you go, well, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I love everything about what you do and your approach. Where can people find out more about you? And also, if this is different, where can people connect with you and get to know you? I know some people like to be active on certain social media platforms where they can kind of meet people and connect and message. And obviously you have a website. So yeah, tell everybody where to find you and find out more about you.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Great conversation. I do a lot on LinkedIn. I post on Facebook as well, but there's not much for me on Instagram, but mostly on LinkedIn. You'll find I give helpful tips, tricks, information. I repost other good content like Simon Sinek or anyone that has something good to say that I think will help people. In my attitude, it's all about giving. The more you give, the more you get. You can find me on my website, www.4pillarcoach.com. LinkedIn is LinkedIn/in/Steve Ferman. And you search me on Google. I've got a website, I've got LinkedIn, and I'm always available for a conversation, or if you just have a question, I'd love to speak to you, love to connect with you.
I love it. And yeah, I find LinkedIn's become so powerful lately for like actually building relationships, as opposed to just like, spamming or being like, out there in the world and being visible. I guess maybe the distinction is, on LinkedIn, I feel like I'm able to be more present, whereas on other social media, I just kind of try to be visible and be around. But like some of my favorite professional and personal connections that I've made over the past few years have been on LinkedIn. They started on LinkedIn. It's become very, very powerful in that way, in a way that I very much appreciate and respect.
I like to say it's less noise because it's more targeted towards what you're really looking for. And I think LinkedIn's done a really good job at that. So that's why I chose to spend most of my time there. Again, anything on LinkedIn will go to Facebook, and all my blogs are on my website, my events are on my website. We do workshops, things like that for free too. So
excellent. A lot of places to find you. I love it. Once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for talking with me today. I really dug it. I'm almost tempted to bring you back for a part 2, just to absorb more, maybe focus the conversation. But it's great. This is fun.
Anything you want, Kevin, I'm more than happy to. Thank you.
And to the audience, thank you so much for listening. Find Steve. Get to know him a little bit. He is, as you can probably tell, he is very easy to talk to and has a lot to say. And I could tell he's a good listener. I did talk a little bit. He's kind of let me wax poetic about some things. So Steve's great. Find out more about him. Get to know him.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.